Wake the fuck up, samurai. We've got a new Retro Today video to watch.
Cyberpunk 2077 is an open-world RPG from CD Projekt Red that takes us into the heart of our dystopian future in Night City. The game had an incredibly troublesome launch back in 2020, featuring some of the most tragic game-breaking bugs, glitches, and almost complete lack of playability. However, Cyberpunk has come a long way in those 3 years since its launch, and despite its troubles, it's actually landed itself as one of my favourite games of recent years. The game affords players a great sense of freedom within its dystopian world, and features some of the most in-depth storytelling and character building out there, despite some of its underlying issues. In a continuation of this series, we'll be looking at the 3 pillars of what I think constitutes true freedom in games. Freedom of story, how much players can influence the plot, but also detach from the main plot to carve their own story. The freedom of character development, how players can customize and develop their character to make them their own, and relate to them in their own way. And finally, freedom of choices, how players' choices affect the game world and the outcome of the main plotline. With these 3 pillars in mind, let's see how Cyberpunk holds up. We'll begin by looking at freedom of character development. At the very start of your game, you'll allocate your character a certain background. You'll have 3 choices here. First is the Nomad. You grew up in the Badlands outside of the city, alongside your Nomad clan, which is more than just a family. Nomads value honesty, integrity, and above all else, freedom. Next is the Street Kid. Your whole life you've been surrounded by the lowlifes, gangs, and fixers that infest Night City's underbelly. You strive for greatness and look to make a name for yourself, just like those other Night City legends. And finally, the Corpo. You work within the system for a multinational corporation. Exploitation, secrecy, and backstabbing are keys to survival in the corporate world, and you'll do anything to ensure you keep what's yours. All these backgrounds can play into how your character interacts with the world and its inhabitants. Often you can find you'll receive specific dialogue choices that reference your background, which can offer you more information on a certain topic, another option for you to tackle a job, or even cash, weapons, vehicles, and housing. While the backgrounds aren't strictly enforced on your character, and you are more than free to divulge into your own character style, you can find that certain interactions may work against you because of your background, so it's always beneficial to keep it on your mind while performing missions around Night City. Cyberpunk 2077 features an impressive character creator straight from the start, offering the player real control over how their character looks by providing various hairstyles, skin tones, facial details such as eyes, noses, and ears. It even gets down into the very finite areas, such as your nails, your teeth, and even your that's like way bigger than average, right? The game gives you near enough full control over how you look, so you have a real chance to either transplant yourself or an established character into the world. The only thing missing that I can really think of would be a body type slider, but ultimately it doesn't matter too much. After you've designed your character's look, you then move on to your attribute points. Here you can set up the basis of your character using the 5 key attributes you use throughout the game. Body, used for raw physical power, increasing your health, stamina, and melee damage with each point. Intelligence, which determines your capabilities with net running and hacking. Reflexes, affecting your movement speed and maneuverability. Technical, which allows you to unlock doors, use tech weapons, and it also affects your crafting. Then finally, cool, which determines your resilience, composure, and effectiveness in stealth. While the points you allocate at the start may give you a baseline of how you'll be playing the game for the first few moments, the game features a more fluid class system, allowing you to branch out into areas you find more interesting down the line. So you're in no way locked to a particular playstyle throughout your story. With these attributes, you can also choose perks that unlock based on your proficiency in that skill. These are mostly gameplay orientated perks, such as increased headshot damage or increasing your health regeneration, but some do offer additional benefits, such as the ability to craft specific gear. Once you've fully established your character, you are then free to progress into the prologue, where we set ourselves up for the rest of the game. Here we'll be introduced to certain characters, most importantly Jackie Wells, and it gives us a little introduction to life in Night City and what kind of antics we can get up to on our journey. Throughout your time in Night City, you'll continue to level up and further hone your skills and adjust your playstyle to just how you want it. You may start off the game focused on big guns and heavy damage, but perhaps you want to go for a more stealthy hacker playstyle for a particular mission. You can freeform your skills as you go along and invest points where you think you need them or how you want to switch up your playstyle. You're never really locked into a particular build, Because of this, you can also have countless experiences with missions throughout multiple playthroughs, and it allows you to switch things up and experience a different side of the game, or perhaps roleplay a particular character archetype. Not only is your skill set flexible, but the equipment you can use throughout your time in Night City is also very flexible. With the addition of the transmog system, you are able to equip your character with the best stats, but you also are able to keep the same style you're looking for your character. Maybe you don't want to be wearing a hat or glasses, but statistically they give you an edge with extra stats. You're able to just change them to something more fitting or hide them completely. This system adds another layer of customization and freedom to choose how your character looks without being forced to look like a complete clown. Another point I'd like to make a note of is the relationship system in the game. Throughout your adventures in Night City, you'll meet characters that have the potential to become a romantic partner, each one having their own preferences based on what kind of character you're playing, and while some may view this as a bad point to lock particular romance options behind gender or life path, I personally think it makes total sense. It keeps the game feeling realistic. People have preferences in the real world, and instead of forcing every character to be attracted to the player despite their beliefs or orientation, it gives the player an excuse to maybe give a different character playthrough a try, just to see another side of the game they may have missed. But alongside these romance options, they give you an opportunity to build your character's story and their personality through various speech options and just your general behaviour during particular missions. It's nothing major, but it allows you to add a few extra layers to your already established character. Now, while all these options are fantastic and offer you a huge opportunity to build your character how you want them, there is the issue of the game providing you a name and a tie-in with the main story at the beginning. I completely understand that it's necessary to have an introductory prologue where we have our character establish themselves as a mercenary for hire following the events of their backstory, but it does also just take a little bit of freedom out of the game. I'm not going to mark this down significantly because, as I stated, once you've completed the prologue story, you're more than free to pursue your own life in Night City. Generally, NPCs won't know who you are, and side missions are almost entirely separated from the main plot, minus the name of your character being said at the start of most missions. But other than that, you're almost free to do whatever you want and carve out your own path within the game's world. So when we look at the huge stock of opportunities to create and develop our own character within Cyberpunk's world, it's almost a no-brainer to give the freedom of character development in this game an 8 out of 10. It gets a tiny markdown because of some of the pre-established plot being attached to the character, and another tiny markdown for not being able to freely sculpt the face and body size. But that's just me probably being just a little bit too picky. Overall, Cyberpunk offers you a vast array of tools to create your character and make Night City your own. When we look at the story structure of Cyberpunk, it is overall linear, but there are quite a few winding paths that you can take to better represent your character throughout the plot. While the prologue is necessary to play through in an almost exclusively linear path, once you've entered the open world, you're free to ditch it completely and build your character from there. While the city is open during the prologue, there are a few things that aren't unlocked during that time, which can limit your ability to portray the character you want. You are free to tackle pretty much any side job, NCPD call out, and any random events how you see fit. While the game will still call you V throughout your time playing, you'll have the ultimate control over who V is during these missions. Do you go full rampage mode and take out enemies ruthlessly? Or are you more of a smooth talker, a hacker, a stealth operator, a cyber psycho? The choice is really up to you. Many of the side missions present in the game offer you various ways to tackle your objective how you see fit. Even when exploring the city, you'll almost never be reminded of the main plot through either NPC interactions or conversations you have during these side jobs. You are fully free to detach yourself from the main story and completely ignore it the moment you step outside the prologue. The NPCs walking the street almost never interact with you as V, only a nameless face among the sea of others in the city. It really helps you immerse yourself in the city as a nameless character, allowing you to almost completely detach yourself from the established character of V at times. When it comes to how much of our character can influence the story outside the main missions and choices, this is where the game comes down a peg, unfortunately. Freedom of story isn't just about how you can detach yourselves from the main plot, but how we can alter it as well with our actions. Now, you could argue that this could come under freedom of choices, but I feel that the staged choices presented to the character should be separated from the actions our character can take while out in the open world. When out in Night City, you don't really have an opportunity to affect any of the known factions and their attitude towards you. There is is no faction system that tracks your reputation with all the groups known across Night City, which unfortunately means that even if I were to go to the corporate plaza and light up a load of Arasaka guards or civilians, it won't come back to bite me in the plot. This goes the same way for the gangs you meet in the city, as I could turn up to a gang's hideout, kill them all, and it doesn't affect my standing within this group. It may seem like a minor thing, but I feel like it would add so much to the game if we were able to influence the city and the plot in that way. So to sum up our freedom of story then, in my opinion the game offers us a great sense of freedom, and to have the ability to near enough detach ourselves from the main plot is fantastic. The game almost treats you as a nameless entity, because that's how it should really be until the end of the main story. To everyone else, V is a nobody merc who sometimes works for the city's fixers. Not everyone knows that, and it should be treated as such. The only area that is let down is our inability to affect the plot and world with our actions in the city. If the game had that, I think it would be near enough perfect. But as it stands, I'm going to give Cyberpunk a 9 out of 10 for its freedom of story. For our final pillar, we will be looking at the freedom of choices. In Cyberpunk, the main plot is filled with both major and subtle choices. Everything you do has consequences and can affect the overall world. Even the way your character can tackle a job is filled with small intricacies throughout it. Of course, there will be times in a side or even main missions where the game wants to railroad you into a certain scenario, or it could be an insignificant choice, such as going in stealthy or guns blazing. But even then, some of the actions you can take might change the dialogue slightly, showing you a different side of the story that you may have never seen. If we focus on the main plot for this segment, we can examine the weight of choices you make throughout your journey through Night City. There will be spoilers in the upcoming segment, so if you'd like to skip, head to this timestamp. From the get-go, during the prologue, you'll come across a mission to secure a robot from a gang that stole it from Militech, one of the major corporations in Night City. This mission alone has one of the most complex flowcharts of possible outcomes in the game, and depending on your character, you may want to tackle this in one of many ways. Do you meet with the Militech contact and secure a money chip which also contains a virus to screw over Maelstrom, the gang who hijacked the robot? Or do you meet with Jackie and miss the meeting, pay out of your own pocket and leave with no need for extra violence? You could also say that you aren't paying and fight your way out of the hideout. Either way, the choice is yours to make, and that's just one mission of many that have branching layouts of varying options open to your character. Even after the prologue, the game is filled with subtle choices that don't feel like you're making a hard-coded choice. Instead, you feel like you're making these decisions based on what your character would do, how they feel. All these choices culminate at the end, to where you have to make one of your final decisions to save your character's life. Throughout the story, your character has been infected with an engram or image of one of Night City's legends, Johnny Silverhand. The image is slowly erasing your brain and replacing it with the memories and personality of Johnny, slowly leading to your inevitable death. The main plot revolves around you trying to find a way to stop this from happening and remove Johnny from your mind. All the choices you make, both when creating your character, how you interacted with other characters throughout your missions, and the direction you personally took your character, through all this culminates in a series of choices you can make to solve the problem of your looming death. Either way, you believe that Arasaka, the mega corporation that imprisoned Johnny on this chip, holds the key to saving you, and you need to somehow get it. Cyberpunk has a total of 5 endings, 3 of which have a final sub-choice to make within that ending. Some involve an all-out assault on Arasaka with the friends and allies you made along the way, some involve trusting Arasaka and having them help you, and then there's always the easy option. However you choose, you'll get to see how each one plays out in the end, each one being the result of the choices you made along the way. It may not have been the ending you were expecting, but sometimes that's just how it is. When it comes to the choices you can make in this game, I truly believe that they have done a great job in making each choice feel like it has an impact on your character and the overall story. Every decision leading to the ending that fits your character. It's a no-brainer for me. Cyberpunk gets a 9 out of 10 for freedom of choices. It has one of the most impactful sets of choices you can make in a main plotline that I've ever seen. And even outside the story, your character makes decisions throughout side missions that can affect your relationships that your character has, or how much of the plot plays out to you. When a lot of people look back at Cyberpunk 2077's release, it was, of course, riddled with bugs, glitches, and it was near enough unplayable. I was rather lucky to find that I had relatively few bugs that affected my gameplay when I played on release, but that still didn't stop the disappointment I had for something I'd been waiting for so long. But it's now 3 years on, and while yes, the game has improved leaps and bounds since then, it's still not perfect. But through all the issues that plagued this game and all the perceptions that it has today, I still think that Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the best open world RPGs out there. The game gripped me from the very start with its atmosphere, its openness and its story. I still think that the story written for this mess of a game is one of the most thought-provoking and engaging stories I've ever played. A story that grips you with some of the most intricate problems we face as people heading into the future. The struggles of dystopian capitalism and corporate greed, self-identity and humanity, social inequality, and in your own character's personal story, the acceptance of death and the importance of legacy. Even outside of the story, the game offers you its wide open world to explore, a city where you can carve out your own adventure, explore the underbelly and make a name for yourself. The game feels open from the get-go and it lets players completely divulge themselves in the living, breathing world of Night City. To me, Cyberpunk 2077 is almost the perfect mess. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any recommendations of games you'd like me to look at, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you agree or not with what I had to say. I'd love to see your perspective. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for future installments. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.